things that you know to do and are still not being given additional support and are still being held responsible for outcomes. So at this point, I feel like I'm at a point where I have to advocate for myself and my development needs. And you know what? You may need to do the same.
Hey, fire starters, I have missed you. It has been almost 3 months since we sat down in the lounge, honey, and chopped it up and had a good old time. And you know what? My apologies, teacher friends. I will tell you that I took a minute to step back and reset, right? Normally people do this sort of over the holiday, but I kept podcasting. I had passed my 1 year podcasting mark and just really was going to go. And then it just sort of hit me like a wall. I was working a ton. I was tired. And I'd forgotten why I started the show in the first place. And honey, that's a bad place to be with anything that you're doing, right? If you're doing it and you don't know why you're doing it, you may need to take a break and reevaluate. So in the middle of me taking this break, right, and figuring out, what am I doing? What do I have to say? Who am I at this point? Honey, then the corona done came down. Okay, so corona hit and I had to restructure my entire life. But now I'm back. Long story short, and all of that to say, and with that being said, don't you love all those expressions? Honey, and with that being said, let me tell you that I absolutely reconnected. So the break has been good for me. I went back and watched like my old vlogs. How many of y'all been following me that long? Where I was traveling the country, talking to teachers. I went and found, honey, dug out the video of my very first keynote presentation. And it was the first time I told my teacher story in full out loud. And then I remembered, I started this podcast because I needed this podcast when I was in the classroom. I didn't have a mentor teacher that I connected with. I definitely didn't have a school community that was warm and welcoming for me. And I had a whole bunch of passion and nowhere to put it. I didn't know how to grow myself. I had to search for kind of like-minded people and opportunities to kind of build up who I could be, because those things just weren't present in my teaching environment. And so if you're listening to this show and it's your first time, welcome. This show is for teachers who are in need and in search of community. If you are in a teaching environment where there is nobody that is working to develop you, where there is nobody who is knocking on your door to collaborate, to talk about new ideas, where you feel like you're the only one trying to push forward or the only one willing to take a risk instructionally, or who's even thinking about doing things different, honey, this show is absolutely for you, because I have been in those shoes. I know that life, right? And if you have been with me the entire time, thank you so much for remaining a faithful listener. And thank you for going on this journey with me, honey. I had to re-find myself. And now that I'm back, I am back with a vengeance. I will tell you that on today's show, I'm about to share with you my very first keynote. This was at ESET 2, BYU, honey, in Shreveport, Louisiana. Shout out my Louisiana friends, honey, because I love them. That's family down there. But it was the very first time I'd stood on a stage. I was terrified. It was the first time I'd been paid to speak. And even though I listen to it now and I'm like, I can't believe I said some of those things, it was raw and it was real and it was me. And I want to share that with you because we're here together, right? So thank you for being patient while I went through my process and then readjusted to the Rona and now got things back on track. I want you to know that I want to share with you the people I've met on this wonderful journey. Every single week, I want to come to you with a new friend that you can reach out and connect with, even if it is over social media, because no matter how you talking to people these days, we all need each other, and I'm definitely here to help. Hey, change makers, and welcome to The Core, sponsored by Red Apple EdCo. This is your everything education podcast. We talk about current events, books to read. We interview education leaders, hear their stories, learn from their biggest lessons, and they share what they wish you knew about what it means to be in education today. I'm your host, Dr. Kia Turner. Buckle up for small seeds of inspiration that can lead to big changes in your classroom practice. Let's take a bite out of today's guest.
What caused I was excited being a first-year teacher is because I felt like I was finally getting my chance to make a difference. I had already worked in what I call the pre-teacher professions, right? I had worked at Boys and Girls Club. I had done like before and after school lit care. I'm an oldest of like 3 of the kids. I felt like I've been watching kids for a while. So I was excited to get the opportunity to finally be in my own classroom. Can you go to the next slide? I don't know what happened to that song. That's okay. Thank you. What I found was this. So at the top of these slides, I have quotes that stick out in my mind when I think about my education experience. Soft as medicated cotton is my first year. I worked at a school where I did not receive any professional development. So I'm fresh out of college, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. We didn't have professional development, period. I was given a mentor teacher. Unfortunately, my mentor teacher believed development was coming in my room, making a list of what I was doing incorrectly in front of the kids, leaving that list for me to look at later and walking out. Okay? I took everything I learned from working at Boys and Girls Club and was like, everybody in my class needs to line up. Everybody take a seat. It wasn't at all classroom management that I didn't know. I figured out what I knew about how to plan lessons from how to engage with kids I'd worked with before. Not because I received any help with managing those lessons. Eventually, click again, I quit. That's me running away like Jackie joining her. And so, that first year, I worked at 2 different buildings. The first one had absolutely no professional development. I'm fresh out of college, didn't know what to do. The second one, honey, I went to a school where they said, you don't need to try to teach the kids. You read from a book every day and have them write down a summary of what you said. I was teaching reading. Okay, so I'm like, what, 23. Teaching reading, and they're like, you don't got to do that. Read and have them write a 1-paragraph summary. Your goal is to keep them in the seat. That is what I was told by my mentor in that building, which also didn't have professional development. So I had a parent. I decided that we needed to talk about community issues and have my kids talk about gangs in Kansas City. It was a big thing. Tookie Williams was on death row at the time. I've always been a teacher who talked about current events, popular culture, tried to weave it in. Did I tell you I was secondary? That's what I did. I had a parent say, why are you talking about this? My son is soft as medicated cotton in here, and you got him talking about gangs and stuff and looking around his neighborhood. He had need to learn about that. And I thought, I'm soft as medicated cotton too, ma'am. I figured out how to teach you a child, and I don't have any help either. So year 1 left me with a few takeaways. Number 1, teachers need professional development because it helps them to better develop kids. Yeah. I was not my most effective self because I didn't know what the hell it was. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I wanted to make a difference. I didn't know how. Number 2, I found my style my first year. I've always been like this. So my class was fun, it was engaging, I don't know what they were learning. But we had a good time and got to know each other, and I was really good at building relationships. That's what I knew how to do. Right. And then number 3, parents actually care. They really do. They hold their kids to a standard, even if it looks different. Can I tell you, this is the other thing that I think about my first year. I had a mother come up, run her son up against the wall, and smack the taste out that boy's mouth because he had been skipping school and cutting up in my class. Now, I was like, clearly I probably should walk away at this point. But I realized too, she didn't know how to help him either. She was just trying to make sure that he graduated. And that's what I wanted to do as well. Okay, let's the next slide. So after I quit, I took a year off. I came back to it, and I did some of the best work I've ever done. And here's why I thought about it. Level 1 teacher development is just the basics for you to get in and persist. Cooperative learning structure. Can you please learn how to manage class? Teachers need to know how to manage classrooms. How to get kids working together. It's not group work, it's a strategy to it. If you've never seen the strategy, though, you don't know. You have no idea. I finally learned that, and I was like, okay. Formal and informal evaluations. I was finally at a school where other teachers would walk in and be like, oh, Kia, that was really great. Or, oh, Kia, can you talk to me about what was happening with that lesson? And I got feedback that was constructive that I could use. Peer activation. My principal actually came in and would sit down with me on these informal evaluations too. And then curriculum training. So I went and I learned how to write curriculum. I learned how to do that because I didn't know what else to do. Okay, I went back to school to get trained in curriculum and instruction so that I could better deliver lessons, and it changed the way that I designed them forever. I know everybody can't do that, but teachers need help with lesson design, and that's just the truth. Prepackaged lessons aren't the way to go. You gotta teach teachers how to get in there and learn how to understand the content for themselves. Finally, like I said, relationships were my biggest thing ever. I've always been good at that, and so I managed to leverage those to help kids learn finally. Click again. Okay, so this has a whole lot of clicking. Click one more time. These are my kids, right? Some of them. Click again. Yeah. Stop. Okay. Normally you hear a Superfly song, but we just gotta work with what we got. Okay. I finally learned how to connect with my kids in a meaningful way. They set up this Instagram account for me, right? When they were in the 8th grade this year, like, this is our class. I used to put their assignments on there. They could post homework and send it to me, and it was great. I even made some teacher friends. I didn't know you needed friends to do this job, but you can't do it alone. You really can't. You have got to have a network of people that are going to build you up and someday break you right on down. Can you say that again? Rewind. And then I learned how to incorporate technology. My district used to pay teachers to come after school and learn about, I don't know if y'all know this, PB Works is what it used to be called, PB Wiki. And it was just a way to flip the classroom. We had this computer trainer who was real passionate about it, so I went to all his sessions and I started flipping mine. So up there is me literally reading Romeo and Juliet to my students and then posting it online so that if they missed class, thank you, so that if they missed class, they were able to keep up. Doing these kinds of things made you feel like, oh, snap, I'm like super teacher out here. It's a cake behind me. It's such a Beyonce fan blowing on me when I walk into the building. I thought I had it until that happened. I have always worked in high need schools. One of my students I used to have to call every single day to get him to come, talk to his mom. All kinds of stuff was happening. He came up to me and said, Jessica, come home pregnant. So I'm dropping out. I got all F. He really did. He showed me his grade card, 1C, that was me. You're the only reason I came to school. I didn't have anything in my tool bag to help him. Does that make sense? And that hurt. That hit me really hard. Because here I am doing all my teacher stuff. How do I end up with a kid who's dropping out?
I decided that I needed to end this story right here, and I'll finish the next part of it probably next week, because this was a situation that haunted me the most. If I were a great teacher, how did I have a student who was going to drop out? And while that wasn't the first student who came to me and said that, what impacted me most was this student was one that if you had asked me, I would have said I had a great relationship with. And it was the first time that my eyes were open to the inadequacies of the way that my school system had been set up. And I really want to talk to you guys about it. So make sure that you inbox me. I'm on Twitter at Hey Dr. Kia, HEYDRKIA. I'm on Instagram at the same thing, Hey Dr. Kia. I'm also on Facebook at the Facebook page, and that's at Hey, HEYDRKIA, Hey Dr. Kia as well. I'm not sure the first time you had your heart broken at school, but this was mine. I thought that I had it all together, only to find out that I was part of a system that was not allowing my students to be successful. And when I realized that, I knew I needed to change what I was doing. All right, that's all I have for today, fire starters. I really appreciate y'all rejoining me for the ride. Share the show. Be sure to rate me on iTunes. And until next time, go forth, be great, and stay lit. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to The Core. Wherever you are listening to us, be sure to like our show, subscribe, and share the episode that's meant the most to you. We appreciate every single one of our subscribers, as do our sponsors. We look forward to seeing you next week. You can also check us out on YouTube at Red Apple Edco. If you'd like to see more video of these conversations, we have them posted there.